Hey y'all, if you are out there and you see me, then please say hello. Leave a comment so that I know that you're out there and that you can hear me. Hi, Nicole. All right, let's see. I'm going to wait for a couple more people to hop on. Hey, Kimberly. Who else is out there? Luthaza, Shayna. All right, Delante. He says, I'm here. This is my shift discussing legal draft bills. Yeah. Hi, Naomi. Josiah, Carol. All right. So listen, I am going to go. Hi, Daniel. I'm going to go through this Justice and Policing Act. It's going to be a little bit of a balancing act because I'm on one laptop and I have another one over here. Um, but I'm going to editorialize for a couple of minutes because I think that kind of, and I'm aware that this is probably just Twitter troll, right? But I think that the whole emphasis on the kente cloth or the emphasis on the kneeling, which by the way is probably news to most people that it's not okay to kneel, because I could have sworn that all I've seen all over social media is about how great it is to kneel. And for very, very busy, let's be honest, very, very busy Congress people to take out 8 minutes and 46 seconds to kneel in honor of George Floyd, I think that was a big deal. I think it's unfortunate um, how it's just people just they focus on all the wrong shit. Delante says Cap didn't get fired for that. Exactly. I went to a protest on Friday. We kneeled for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. He says it sounds like it's an echo. Okay, I don't know why that would be. I was having some trouble with the audio earlier, so I'm sorry if it's an echo. Hopefully it's not too bad. Um, but I think it's ridiculous, and I think somebody actually inadvertently told on themselves, and they basically revealed that, like, well, the kente cloth made it a meme, and that is the problem with our society. Everything is about a meme. Everything is about what can be easily digestible. Everything is about slogans. It's so little about the substance. Now, I do expect that the same people that are talking shit about the kente or about the kneeling will then turn around and complain about the bill once somebody puts in the meme what they should be complaining about. I expect that's going to happen. But I appreciate you all being here today to learn a little bit about the Justice and Policing Act. That's what I'm going to focus on. I'm going to try to focus on this, but also circle back around to any of your questions or comments. I'm not an expert on it, okay? I'm doing what anybody else out there could do, which is download the bill, download all the literature around it, and comment on it. But I am doing this because you know what? A lot of people just don't want to take the time, or they don't have the time to do it. And maybe they might read it and nothing might jump out to them. Um, but I want to at least have the opportunity to say, hey, listen, somebody is going through this stuff. So I started off with Senator Kamala Harris's press release because it had a lot of resources there. There was a 2-pager, there was a 5-pager, and then there was a 134-page bill. Okay. And so I looked at all of those things. Delonte says the way I have this bill pulled up. Yes. So if you watched the actual press conference, then you will have heard from the leadership. The intention of this bill is not to cure all ails of policing in this country. The bill has a very specific focus. And I'm going to explain to you, or actually it should go without explaining, why this bill is so impactful in this moment. Because let me remind you, one of the main things, and I'm going to go point by point through the bill. One of the main things that this bill does is it bans the chokehold. That is what happened to our cardioid, any kind of cardio restrictions. That is how George Floyd died. That was what spawned everybody getting out in the street. That's number one. That's a direct response to a direct thing that happened. It happened to Eric Garner, and now it's happened to George Floyd. So that's a direct, tangible response to what's happened in this whole movement. Second thing, it bans no-knock warrants. That's a direct, tangible response to the murder of Breonna Taylor. She still does not have justice in that case either. Nobody's been arrested. The cops have not been arrested for killing her. So I just want to remind people what has galvanized people into the streets. It's not entirely what, but there are two specific cases that have gotten people out in the streets. It's George Floyd, and the thing that this bill seeks to remedy is no longer anybody being able to legally use that kind of maneuver. Now, due to the uprising and due to the pressure that was put on, oh, it looks like I'm losing connection. Okay, I don't know why that is. Ooh, it's red. Okay, you guys bear with me. My connection sucks really bad right now. So I'm going to see if I can get it up to speed. All right. Okay, I'm seeing my Periscope is losing connection. All right, let me see if I can get it back up. You know, my internet gives me so much anxiety because it just, for no rhyme or reason, it just acts up. And I don't have any explanation for why the hell it acts like shit half the time. I have a Wi-Fi extender. I have a lot of things. I'm gonna try something. Try to put my Ethernet cord in. I usually actually do a speed test to see if I can get that going. So bear with me, y'all. I'm gonna do a speed test to see if I can get this up. Let's see. To turn some other devices off. All right. Okay. I think I'm back. I think it's fine. Let's see. I just did a speed test. Not the best upload, unfortunately, but I can't do anything more than what I have. So please bear with me. Hopefully it won't be too bad. I haven't gotten into anything terribly substantive yet. So, okay. I think I'm in good shape now. This speed test looks pretty good. All right. Okay. Yeah, I'm looking. I'm streaming this. I have OBS Studio, and I just noticed after you guys started making comments that it was red. You know, these fucking internets. You pay all this money for internet, and it acts like shit the second that you need to use it. But anyway, all right. I think I'm back. So again, as I was saying, when we galvanize for action, when we galvanize behind specific cases, and then you turn around and you have a legislative body that puts forth tangible solutions to those specific cases, to those specific reasons why you're out on the street, I think that's worth actually recognizing, and I think that that's worth actually even if you're easily distracted, even if the Kente thing threw you off or whatever, I still think that we have to move past things that are just so easy, the low-hanging fruit to jump on, and actually look at the substance. So, like I said, this bill is not, and nobody is claiming that this bill is the be-all, end-all to everything that is wrong with the policing system. They're not. It's not. In fact, Senator Kamala Harris laid out a number of things that does not address here, that is not addressed here, but she went into, you know, her spiel, which she said many times before about healthy communities. And to be honest, a lot of it kind of sounds a little bit like the things that the defund the police movement are asking for. Again, you know, I'm not getting caught up in the slogans. I'm not getting caught up in the semantics of let's just talk substance here. So let's go through the Justice and Policing Act. But like I said, if you do not take away anything else from this conversation, what I want you to take away is that the United States Congress, the leadership of Senator Kamala Harris, Senator Cory Booker, and Congresswoman Karen Bass and Jerry Nadler have put forth a bipartisan, I don't know if it's bipartisan, let me not say that, let me say both chambers, coordinating across chambers, coordinating their colleagues, over 200 Congress people across both chambers have signed on to this bill. It's the Justice and Policing Act of 2020. It's the first ever comprehensive approach to holding police accountable and ending racial profiling. So, like I said, and let me also stipulate, I'm not an expert. I did not write this. I'm reading the information and I'm giving you the information that's available to any of you. You're more than welcome to read it for yourself. C. Mary says, my issue with these bills is it's making any specific ban leaves everything else open. It's just as a distraction, a phony solution. I could not disagree with that more, because it's not a distraction. It's not a phony solution. When George Floyd is laying in a casket right now in Houston because somebody put their foot put his knee on his neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. So I'm really sick of people who want to always trash any kind of solution. If even one person's life is saved, if even one less black man or black woman doesn't die because a cop feels empowered to put his fucking foot in their neck or knee in their neck, then that's a win. That's not phony. That's a life saved. And what other solutions are there? I really want people to explain to me the specific tangible things that can be done to actually change anything that's happening. That's what I want somebody to explain to me, versus how whatever's being proposed isn't going to work. Please explain to me how you can save a life, even one life, through legislative action. To say we're going to ban no-knock warrants, that saves Breonna Taylor's life if we can go back in the time machine. So this is not phony. This is not for show. And at a certain point, we gotta do something. We can't just keep, we ain't gonna do shit because nothing is gonna work. No, we have to do something. We cannot accept the inevitability that black people are going to die at the hands of police. That's what I just want people to understand. What else is there? Explain to me. I asked on my page today, I said, what is your specific legislative solution at the local, state, and federal level? What are you doing to get the elected officials behind that legislative solution? That's what I want to hear. Do you even know who your legislative officials are? Do you know who your local person is? Do you know who your state person is? Do you know who your federal person is? That's what I want to know. All right, I'm gonna take off Twitch because Twitch got too many ignorant ass people. I'm just gonna go ahead and turn it off right now. I ain't got time for it. I'm not saying that everything is perfect, but what I'm saying is when I see something that sounds like a reasonable solution, let's go for it. That's what I'm saying. That's why I don't jump on the people. Oh, okay, I defund police. Oh, no, I'm not jumping on them because they have some things that sound reasonable, regardless of whether you like the slogan or not. They have some things that sound reasonable. I'm for any kind of solution that's fact-based solution. That's what I'm for. He says he murdered him. Is he going to have not killed him because it was banned? Don't think so. Okay. Maybe he would have, maybe he wouldn't have. But we've seen video after video of police digging their knee in somebody's neck. This hasn't just happened to George Floyd. Eric Garner, I can't breathe. And Naomi makes a good point. It's the same as gun reform. Every step matters. People say, oh, well, if you do this, that's not going to change it. If you do this, it's not going to change it. Let's try it out. How about that? Okay. So let me go forward with what I'm saying. Let me go forward. Like I said, I will repeat again. If you take nothing else away from what I'm going to tell you today, the bill addresses two cases that have gotten people out in the streets. It addresses the chokehold, the cardioid restrictions, and banning that practice, and it addresses the no-knock warrant, which led to Breonna Taylor's murder. That's still no justice for that. So we can't sit up there and demand justice. We can't get up there and go out into the streets. And then when people put forth the solution, that's a direct response to that, then we have a problem with it. Well, what's your solution? All right, so let me go through this. And so let me just explain. I mentioned it earlier that Kamala Harris has 3 things on her page, harris.gov, and I had a link on my page to it. So there's a 134-page Senate bill. I mean, well, it's a Senate bill, it's a House bill, it's the same bill in both chambers. Then there's a fact sheet. That's a 2-pager. It's very simple and very quick to get through. And then there is another, it's a fact sheet by section. And that's 5 pages. Another very, very, very good, easy read. Okay. And so nobody's claiming that this is going to solve police brutality. It's a step. Okay. Be clear. I'm not arguing that it's going to solve everything. There's no silver bullet. I've said that many, many times. But let's understand what's in the bill. And then if you aren't satisfied, then you come to the table with what your legislative solution is. All right, let's start with Title 1. Okay, I'm going to go through it. I'm not making none of this shit up. I'm literally reading off of it, and I'll have my little commentary. Title 1, Section 101. Title 1 is police accountability. That's what we want. We want police accountability. Section 101, revising 18 U.S.C. 242, Federal Criminal Police Misconduct Statute. The problem. It even tells you what the problem is, what the solution is, Jed. The current mens rea, and the lawyers, Delonte, you can tell me if I'm saying that right, standard of willfulness has made it extremely difficult to prosecute law enforcement officers. The bill would change willful to knowingly or with reckless disregard. Define a death resulting as any act with a substantial factor contributing to the death. Why is that important? What did they try to do to George Floyd? What did the medical examiner try to say with George Floyd? Oh, it was a pre-existing condition that killed him. Really? Not 8 minutes and 46 seconds of a motherfucker putting his goddamn knee on his neck? No. So substantial factor. But for that knee on his neck, he would have went on home to his family and his baby girl. So these are the kinds of things that y'all don't understand is why it's harder to get prosecutions. It's because of these ridiculous standards. It's because of the way that you have medical examiners who sit up there and come up with these bogus ass reports. All right. Section 102, qualified immunity reform. The problem, courts have interpreted qualified immunity to bar individuals from recovering damages when law enforcement officers have violated their constitutional rights. This is one of those things that the Supreme Court has gotten more and more extreme on. It's been in place since the 80s. The bill would modify Section 1983 to enable individuals to recover damages when law enforcement officers violate their constitutional rights. Does that help if you're dead? No. But guess what? Making these motherfuckers pay for their actions, that might change the game a little bit. Is it going to change it entirely? No, but it might. Right now, they're entirely too shielded from any kind of culpability. That's what this bill changes. Section 103, pattern and practice investigations. The problem, and this is a big problem, the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division ability to conduct pattern and practices investigations into discriminatory and unconstitutional policing practices has been undermined by the Trump administration. They've all but ended the practice. This bill would grant subpoena power to the U.S. Department of Justice Civil Rights Division to conduct pattern and practices investigations, provide grants to state attorneys general to conduct pattern and practices investigations. Okay? So I'm going to plug Kamala right here. As AG, Kamala Harris opened up 2 pattern practices investigations into the deadliest counties or police departments for police shootings, which was Bakersfield and the other one. The other one is escaped Kern County, Bakersfield and Kern County. So she has a history of doing this, but it's not just about Kamala because there's a lot of people on this bill. All right. Independent, Section 104, independent investigations. The problem. State and local enforcement agencies have historically failed to hold law enforcement officers accountable for misconduct and the use of excessive force. This bill would create a grant program for states' attorneys general to create an independent investigation process for law enforcement misconduct or excessive use of force. Now, I know that a lot of people like to sit up there and make the false claim that Kamala Harris opposed a specific assembly bill that had independent investigations. She declined to weigh in. But what they don't tell you in that, number one, that bill went nowhere. It was never going to go anywhere because Jerry Brown didn't support it. But Kamala Harris actually tried to get this exact thing done in the state of California. She went to Governor Jerry Brown at the time and asked for money to create an independent investigation process, to create a task force of attorney generals, deputy, investigators and prosecutors. He said no. He did not get funding for that. Well, problem solved, because this is going to give the states the funding for that. A lot of people like to act like, well, they could have done this for 20 years. They could have done it for that. Really? Name a specific bill that had momentum. Name a specific organization that had the ability, the political capital to get it through. I haven't seen it. Section 105, Law Enforcement Trust and Integrity Act. The problem, police departments lack uniform standards to ensure adherence to best practices and community accountability. This bill would require the Attorney General to create law enforcement accreditation standard recommendations based on President Obama's task force on 21st century policing. President Obama already came up with a bunch of solutions with his DOJ that were rolled back or not implemented once Trump got in office. Create law enforcement development programs to develop policing best practices. Everybody, and I know people think of, oh, you're talking about developing training, developing this, developing that. That's not going to help. Nobody has solutions. So who's going to come up with the solutions? Because if you just listen to everybody else, there ain't no solutions to nothing. I guess we should just all just magically hope that it'll fucking solve itself. No. You have to put some money behind developing the solutions, and that's what this bill does. Study the impact of any law, rule, or procedure that allows a law enforcement officer to delay for an unreasonable or arbitrary period of time the answer to questions posed by investigators of law enforcement misconduct. So, in 15 states, there's a police bill of rights. Those bill of rights, they're not the same in every state, to be clear, but those bill of rights do allow for police officers to do things like they don't have to talk in an investigation for 30 days. So there's a lot of things that happen that are hindering any kind of accountability for the police. And so this is a study. So yeah, you're going to be upset. Oh, well, it's just a study. It's not a ban. It's not this, any other. Okay, that's fine. We have to have fact-based solutions. You get the study, and then that builds the momentum. If you want more, call up your congressperson. Call up your local person, call up your mayor, call up your governor, and demand more. But I'm telling you what's in this bill. Enhances funding for pattern practice discrimination described in Section 210401 of the Violent Crime Control Law Enforcement Act of 1994 and programs managed by DOJ Community Relations Service. Require the Attorney General to collect data on the following. A, investigatory actions and detentions by federal law enforcement agencies, the racial distribution of drug charges, the use of deadly force by and against law enforcement officers, traffic and pedestrian stops and detention. So there needs to be data about that, and it's going to be done at a federal level. And that's for anything that's involving in kind of federal actions. Establish a DOJ task force to coordinate the investigation, prosecution, and enforcement efforts of federal, state, and local governments in cases related to law enforcement misconduct. So, again, at some point, you got to start working on the solutions. At some point, you got to start getting the stakeholders in the room. At some point, you have to start putting in the work. And that's what this is doing. Title 2, Policy Transparency Through Data. Subtitle A, Establishment of a National Police Misconduct Registry. The problem. Too often, problematic officers leave or are fired by one agency and then move to another jurisdiction without any accountability. We know that's a problem because we've seen it happen. We've seen some of these cops who sit up there and they get fired after murdering a black person and then they go work for another district. All right. This bill would create a federal registry of all federal, state, and local law enforcement that compiles misconduct complaints, pending, sustained, and exonerated, discipline records, termination records, records of certification. Mandates that law enforcement agencies ensure that all of the officers hired are certified within the state. So there is a transparency problem. There is a lack of data problem. When you have activists like Samuel Sengawa and other people who have these projects that try to piecemeal data together, that's a lot of work and that's a lot of time. That's a lot of effort when the government is really best suited to do that. Delonte, as you're pointing out, absolutely. Kamala created Open Justice. It was the first of its kind transparent database to report on, a lot of things, arrest records and things like that in the state of California. And that database has been held by activists for its ability to give them the data that they need to make these cases. But I sure as hell would like to know if somebody, okay, you was cracking heads and killing people over here, and now you over here. How does that supposed to work? So we definitely have to get this information to be more transparent. Derek Chauvin had 17, the main person, I should say, who killed George Floyd, had 17 complaints. Now, if there had been more teeth behind the ability to enforce those complaints, maybe we wouldn't have had George Floyd in the position that we've had. There's a woman, and y'all gonna have to help me out with the name. It was the man who was on the, his car broke down. He was leaving school and this white woman came and shot him and killed him. He had his hands up. She did not get anything that happened to her. So anyway, she ended up turning around and going to work for another police department. So we need to have this stuff so that it's very easy to know who's trying to move around where. Subtitle B, Police Reporting Information, Data, and Evidence Act. The bill would require states to report to the Justice Department any incident where use of force is used against a civilian or against a law enforcement officer. The report must include, for example, the following: the national origin, sex, race, ethnicity, age, disability, English language proficiency, and housing status of each civilian against whom a law enforcement officer used force, and the reason force was used. That's a transparency thing. Kamala Harris, I heard her talking about, how we don't want police officers responding to, like, let's say the homeless population and not being, when they aren't equipped to respond to that population, or responding to people who have mental health issues that are going on. So that's where, when people want to say defund the police, whether you like that slogan or not, that's where you have the data to say, okay, well, we're spending all of these resources responding to this population. Maybe instead of having the cops respond to that, we need to have a different organization. We need to have a different skill set responding to that. So that's where this kind of data is helpful. Provide technical assistance grants to law enforcement agencies that employ less than 100 people to help comply with the requirements of the bill. Title 3, Improving Police Training and Policies. There are some people that do not believe that training helps at all. I would like to see the data that's behind that assertion. If you're one of those people, that's fine. You're not going to like anything that this has to say, but I'm going to go on ahead and read it anyway. Subtitle A, in Racial and Religious Profiling Act. The problem: blacks are 3.6 times more likely to be arrested for selling drugs, despite the fact that whites are more likely to sell drugs. Blacks are 2.5 times more likely to be arrested for possessing drugs, despite using them at the same rate as whites. Okay. So this bill would prohibit federal, state, and local law enforcement from racial, religious, and discriminatory profiling and create a cause of action for declaratory or injunctive relief. Mandate law enforcement provide training on racial, religious, and discriminatory profiling. I want to go back to the one thing. Injunctive relief. That's where the data comes in. When you have data, you can improve discriminatory practices. This bill gives you relief for that, injunctive relief. Require law enforcement to collect data on all investigatory activities and submit collected data to the Department of Justice using a standardized form. Condition federal funding to state and local law enforcement to adopt policies to combat racial, religious, and discriminatory profiling. Condition federal funding to state and local law enforcement to establish best practices to discourage profiling. So, conditioning funding. So, what this bill does not do is it does not change per se the existing statutes on the local part, but it does incentivize the states and local departments to adopt these through funding. If you want this funding, then you have to take these measures at your local level. So that's very important. That's a very important aspect of it. It's how you affect change without having the necessary the jurisdiction to physically to actually change the laws within those specific jurisdictions. Require the Attorney General to provide reports on racial, religious, and discriminatory profiling and ongoing efforts to combat profiling. Nicole says they have to do it that way, 10th Amendment, exactly. Section 361, training on racial bias and duty to intervene. Duty to intervene. Again, when we're talking about cops that stood around and in some cases contributed physically to the death, but also refused to intervene in the death of George Floyd, duty to intervene is a thing that needs to be addressed. The bill would establish a training program to cover racial bias, implicit bias, procedural justice, and the duty to intervene, mandate training at the federal level, condition federal funding on establishing training at the state and local level. Leverage, yes. Delonte says the bill makes it illegal for cops to racially profile and for you to go to court and make money off it. Right. It allows you to do that. Smelly magnet, this has nothing to do with Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders has signed on to this bill with your stupid ass, but I'm gonna go ahead and hit the block button. Blocked. And let me carry on. Section 362, ban on no-knock warrants in drug cases. The bill would ban on no-knock warrants in drug cases at the federal level, condition law enforcement funding for state and local agencies on prohibiting the use of no-knock warrants in drug cases. Leverage. That was a drug case and a botched no-knock warrant that killed Breonna Taylor. This is a direct response to that. Section 363. Ban on chokeholds and carotid holds. Okay, I've been saying it wrong the whole time. I'm dyslexic sometimes, y'all. Y'all have to work with me. Carotid holds. Y'all gonna help me out. This is the first time I've read that shit today. The bill would ban the use of chokeholds and carotid holds. Somebody spell that phonetically for me if I'm spelling it wrong. Please help a sister out. Condition law enforcement funding for state and local enforcement agencies on establishing a law to prohibit the use of chokeholds and carotid holds. So I block people because that's my prerogative. If you come up in here and you talking mess, you hear on some bullshit, then you got to go. So regulator 619, you blocked too. Goodbye. The question shouldn't be why I'm blocked. The question should be why you can't focus on what the fuck I'm talking about, which is this goddamn justice and policing bill. That should be the question. Anyway, let me carry on because I'm focused. Section 364, Police Exercising Absolute Care with Everyone Act, Peace Act, Peace Act. The bill would change the use of force standard for federal officers from reasonableness to only when necessary to prevent death or serious bodily injury. Masters of distraction, thank you, exactly. Kamala Harris said it best. Anybody can reason anything away. But was it necessary? That's a different standard. Was it necessary? When George Floyd is subdued, saying I can't breathe, saying he wants his mother. People are saying, "Hey, why don't you get off his neck?" Was that necessary? No, it was not necessary. And you going straight to hell if you can sit on a jury and say that. You going straight to hell if you can be a prosecutor and ignore that. Require that deadly force be used only as a last resort, and require police officers to employ de-escalation techniques. Now, some people are not going to like that. They're going to be like, well, you should never be able to kill the cop. Well, I can tell you this. I'm not going to personally ask a cop to basically just, if somebody pulls out a gun and tries to shoot them, or if somebody tries to harm them in a way that they can die, I'm not going to begrudge them if they have to return force. Now, making up shit, lying and saying, oh, I thought I saw this, or I thought this, I thought that. Nah, I thought shit. But yeah, if somebody is shooting at you, then I think you have a right to defend yourself. Okay. Condition grants on state and local enforcement agencies establishing the same use of force standard. So going back to the chokehold and things like that, let me just say that we saw today a New York Assembly bill passed overwhelmingly in New York to ban that. We saw yesterday that Governor Gavin Newsom of California, came out and announced his support for that. Latifah Simon was part of that. Y'all check out my interview with Latifah Simon. It's pinned on my page. I'm telling you, it's really mind blowing. Her insights into her time with Senator Kamala Harris. But she was part of that announcement. So yeah, I just want to talk about, because I want to remind you guys there are some movements that are happening at the local and state level, and while this is a federal bill, it's conditioning grants on them making that moves, but they can make these moves even without the federal bill. And that's on us to put the pressure on these folks to do that. Section 365, Stop Militarizing Law Enforcement Act. This bill will limit the transfer of military grade equipment to state and local law enforcement. That speaks for itself. Subtitle C, Part 1. I'm almost done, y'all. I got 2 more things to mention. The bill would requires federal uniformed police officers to wear body cameras and marked federal police vehicles to have dashboard cameras. This would also commission a GAO study on federal police officers training, vehicle pursuits, and the use of interactions with the public. Some people don't like body cameras. All of a sudden now body cameras are no for portions of the defund the police movement, because they're saying that, well, if you have a body, it's increasing the funding for the body cameras. Looks like my internet's going out. Okay, come on, come back. I don't know what's happening. I'm gonna pause my thought while I have this red happening. Let me see. Still red. I'm still pausing for a second. Don't know what the hell is going on. I don't know why this internet will not let me be great. So I'm just bear with me. Okay, now. Come on. All right. Well, it says red here, but I'm doing the speed test, and it looks like it's fine. So if it's breaking up, somebody leave a message. If it's fine, then just do me a favor and type in "it's fine." Okay. I'm not seeing any messages either way, so I'm gonna I'm gonna go forward and assume that it's fine. But yeah, anyway. Listen, I'm just gonna say this. Body cameras are the reason why Tatiana Jefferson's killer has been indicted. Because without a body camera, then it likely would have been the same situation that we see with Breonna Taylor, unfortunately. So that's what I have to say about that. I support body cameras. I would really like to see where somebody says that body cameras make people less accountable, because I would really be surprised if there were any data behind that. Subtitle C, Part 2, Police Camera Act. The bill would require state and local law enforcement to use existing federal funds to ensure the use of police body cameras. Existing. And lastly, Title 4, or what was that? Title 9? Or was that 4? Shit. Now, my Roman numerals is off shit. No, it's 4. Okay, it's Title 4. Don't judge me. Justice for Victims of Lynching Act. The bill will make it a federal crime to conspire to violate existing hate crimes laws. That's what Rand Paul's punk ass said up there and blocked Kamala, not just Kamala, but blocked the Senate from doing. So the one thing I took some notes because I read through the 134-page document to just see things that jumped out to me. I think some of these things are very straightforward, so I didn't really dig deeper into those sections. But what did jump out to me was their mention of juvenile justice and school safety, because we've seen the school to prison pipeline. We've seen just today in PG County, they're ending their school resource officers contract with the police department in PG. We've seen in Minneapolis, they said they were cutting it back. So we're starting to see a little bit of a turnaround in terms of people recognizing that the policing of our schools is actually counterproductive. And so one of the things I did find interesting in here, one of two things, was the juvenile justice and school safety, development of uniform standards on juvenile justice and school safety, including standards relating to interaction and communication with juveniles, physical contact, use of lethal and non-lethal force, notification of parent or guardian, interviews and questioning, custodial interrogation, audio and video recording, conditions of custody, alternatives to arrest, referral to child protection agencies, and removal from school grounds or campus. It is completely appalling and devastating what's happening to grown-ass Black people and just people in general. But it is even more traumatizing what kids are being subjected to in these schools. And so I think that it's a great step to this. What's lasting about this is about juvenile justice and school safety, establishing standards for that. That's what this bill does. And I think that's very important. Doesn't say that because you have a standards, it will never be violated. But if you have a standard, it's going to have at least a slightly better possibility of the abuse not taking place. It's a greater than zero possibility. How about that? And then another thing that was in here is victim services. Counseling services, including psychological counseling for individuals and communities impacted by law enforcement misconduct. I think that's a really good part of this bill as well. So I've outlined, like I said, you don't have to take my word for any of this. You are more than welcome to dig through 134 pages of the bill. You're more than welcome to look at the 5-pager. You're more than welcome to look at the 2-pager. But I just really encourage you to find whatever solution it is that you're looking for. And amplify that, work towards that. That's what I want to encourage you all to do. I like a lot of the things that I've heard from a lot of people, even if their slogans suck, even if some of the people are saying it, that I don't really like them people in particular. But guess what? If I did a thing on defund the police and it can't wait last week, because I'm like, all right, people are getting the defund the police part all twisted up. Now it's an even bigger thing today. I'm not going to defend slogans, but when I laid out each of the things that I had seen, there was a graphic about defund the police. Everybody agreed with each individual one. So I'm not going to argue semantics. I'm not going to argue about kente cloth. I'm not going to argue about none of that shit. Now is the time to talk substance. We have to rise above the fucking debasement of our discourse. And I know I said fucking and debasement of our discourse in the same thing, and I said what I said. My cursing is not the debasement. The debasement is when people get all their fucking information from memes, or when people don't want to engage in substance. They just want to engage in, oh, I'm going to pick at this and I'm going to pick at that. Let's talk the substance. Let's find the right solutions. Because we can be out there till the end of time if we're not doing anything substantively, if we're not putting our actions and our resources behind solutions. So that's what I want to encourage you guys to do. I'm going to look at some of your comments and then I'm going to hop off in about 5 minutes. But yeah, let's see. Reallocate, defunding the police. Set aside the slogan. I will say this is something, and I said it earlier, that Senator Kamala Harris has been talking about in terms of the substance. If you go back to her 2006 video where she talks about safe communities and things like that, she talks about, and even what she created in the Back on Track program, when there were, and if you listen to my interview, this isn't news to you, but with the Back on Track program, the prosecutors, even within the office, called it hug a thug and called it back on crack. She had no funding. She had to go and get outside philanthropy funding for her Back on Track program so that you would have fewer people, Black men and Latino men in particular, going to jail. Latifah Simon pointed this out. At that time, 20 years ago, a couple of ounces of crack the size of 2 Splenda packets will put you in jail for 20 years. That's why they said back on crack. That's why they said hug a thug. And she was trying to take, and she has been singing this tune for decades now of saying we need to invest in mental health. We need to invest in education. We need to invest in mental health. I might have said that, mental health services. Those are things we have to invest in. Rehabilitation, vocational training, things like that. So that's not a new concept. Now it has a new slogan for her. Okay, that's fine. You don't agree with the slogan, you agree with it either way. Let's talk about the substance. What about social media abuse and racism? Those go hand in hand. I don't know what else you want me to say about that though. Okay. Anything else y'all want to talk about? Let's see. I only got a couple more minutes, so I'm gonna drop off. Thank you, Southeast Londoner says my favorite panelist on Roland Martin Unfiltered. I appreciate that. I'm so honored to be on a panel with Dr. Carr and Erica Savage Wilson, 2 incredible people. Obviously, Roland Martin too. It's his show. But yeah, I think that you guys should watch Roland Martin every day if you can, because it's a great show. So yeah, I guess the last thing I'll do is, like I said, plug my I'll just plug my interview with Latifah Simon one more time, and just say go listen to that. There's so many gems in there. I really wanted to interview her. I listened to an interview that she did, and there was like a small portion about Kamala, and I was like, oh my God, I need her to talk to me about Kamala. And she did, and every single thing that she said was absolutely mind-blowing. And so I really want you guys to listen to it. It's not about promotion for me. I don't get paid anything. Okay. This is all what I do just because I want the truth out there. I want us to elevate what we're talking about and have a fact-based conversation. Okay. So Dr. Doom, whatever the fuck you talking about, that don't have shit to do with what I'm talking about. So you're blocked. Bye. I don't know I'm confused to the Bernie people that's in the chat. Do y'all have a comment on the Justice and Policing Act of 2020? Or did you just come up in here to bitch and complain? Because I don't care for Bernie and I'm doing a video that don't have shit to do with Bernie. That's why, for those people who said, why do you have your comments turned off? That's why I have my comments turned off. Because I don't even have to be talking about Bernie. And here come these motherfucking Bernie people up in my comments talking shit. I could be talking about anything, and it's always about, I'm not saying nothing about Bernie. Bernie is over there in Vermont Not voting on shit, not doing shit. Let him be great over there. I'm letting him be great. I ain't got nothing to say about him. So anyway, I hate to end it on that note because it just annoys me. It really does. I'm here to help y'all see some shit, hear some shit that you're not going to hear if all you do is follow people that retweet memes and shit that's looking for a viral tweet. I'm not here for viral tweets. If I was, I could probably have 150,000 followers by now. It's not as popular to sit up here and try to give you substance because it doesn't fit in 280 characters. But somebody got to do it. And it's not just me doing it. Be clear. I'm not trying to put myself on a pedestal like I'm the only one doing it. But let's go on ahead and let's try to have a conversation today and tomorrow and for the rest of the week on the substance of this bill. And call your Congress people, call your local people so that they can get on this. And let's make some change. We don't have to accept the inevitability of nothing changing. We can do it. Just like I'm gonna tell you, when that when Donald Trump and they came in there trying to overturn the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, and all them folks went up in there and they protested their asses off, guess what? It failed. So don't ever say that it's inevitable for nothing to happen. We can make it happen if we just put our emphasis and our energy. I saw so many people who have hundreds of thousands of followers, way more followers than me, that tweeted out some bullshit about the Kente Clock, didn't tweet out nothing about the Justice and Policing Act. Imagine if they kept that same energy for some substance. How much better the discourse would be. So that's my challenge to you all. Thank you so much for sticking with me and watching this. I'm going to be back tomorrow, the same time. I'm going to try to do 5. Last week, I was kind of trying to figure out which times worked or whatever. My plan is to try to do this every day at 5. And I'm on Roland Martin at 6 p.m. If you're new to my lives, this is your first time seeing me, I'm on Roland Martin on Thursdays at 6 p.m. So y'all check him out. He's coming on in 5 minutes. And I will talk to y'all later. Y'all have a great evening. And like I said, let's do better, people. Let's have a substantive conversation on whatever solution that you think there is out there, and share that and amplify that and put your voice behind that and make some calls behind those solutions. Peace out.